And one point I forgot, cochlear implants usually they implant by 1 year, so I don't know how does this one policy start, but you have to start therapy. So cochlear implants are generally for those infants who do not respond to hearing aids.
Thank you, sir. I think if in this first round we have managed to at least stimulate कि OE करना है, OE की रिपोर्ट चेक करना है 6 weeks पे, अर्ली लैंग्वेज माइलस्टोन्स देखने हैं एंड डॉक्यूमेंट करना है, पेरेंट्स को बोलना है कि वी आर नॉट ओके, डोंट पास इट ऑफ एंड से ठीक हो जाए। एंड बेरा टेस्ट इजी है, ऑल निकू बेबीज को बेरा होना है एंड इट इज नॉट सेडेशन विच इज एनेस्थीसिया और समथिंग लाइक दैट, एंड ये हियरिंग एड कैन चेंज लाइफ। लेकिन हियरिंग एड और कॉक्लियर इम्प्लांट लगाने से अगले दिन बच्चा बोलना शुरू नहीं करता है। यू हैव टू स्टार्ट एट द सेम पॉइंट वेयर द न्यूबॉर्न वुड हैव हर्ड फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम। तो वो स्पीच थेरेपिस्ट क्या करता है, आपको गाइड करता है, याद दिलाता है कि बच्चा अब 0 से स्टार्ट कर रहा है। ठीक है ना। अब आरोपी के बारे में सब सुनते हैं, सब स्क्रीनिंग के लिए भेजते हैं, लेकिन जब आ जाता है लेजर ट्रीटमेंट बैग, डॉक्टर बताओ क्या है, आई कीप आस्किंग माई रेजिडेंट्स एंड दे कीप फायरिंग द लेजर शॉट्स एट द रॉन्ग प्लेस। चाहे वो एग्जाम में हो, चाहे एग्जाम से पहले हो, एग्जाम के बाद में भी हो, हम लोगों ने सीखने की कोशिश ही नहीं की है कि लेजर कहाँ कर रहे हैं, क्या है यार लेजर ट्रीटमेंट। सो किशोर सर, बैक टू यू।
So laser, I don't want to go into the classification of ROP, but once the child is on threshold ROP and the child needs type 1 ROP, the child needs therapy. Now, why do we get one therapy? Because there are two phases of ROP. One is the obliterative phase, when initially when the child is born, you give a lot of oxygen, all the vessels of the retina get obliterated. Then comes the vasoproliferative phase, where there is hypoxia. So the avascular retina, which does not have blood vessels, is the source for the VEGF, which starts giving VEGF, stimulates the vessels, and because it is avascular, the development goes in the wrong direction. So what they do by laser is they burn out all the avascular retina, so that there is no more VEGF stimulation, hypoxic stimulation, and to the vasoproliferative phase. So they burn. So what happens when they do laser? Of course, the vision is restricted, the field of vision is restricted. But the infants have a lot of plasticity and they do adapt. But their field of vision is narrow, but they do adapt and usually does not. Number 2, if you have laser therapy, you have more chances of refractive error. Number 3, you need an expert to do the laser therapy. There is no need for a general anesthesia, but the child has to be sedated properly to do this.
तो ऊपर से नहीं बोलेगा तो they themselves will find for solutions and you become a champion. So please become a champion. If you are not satisfied with the language milestones, please document. Please tell the family I am not okay. We all are telling about BERA, but those who are probably hardcore neonatologists in large centers like KEM or Sion or place, you may be sending a lot of places. But all parents may, and maybe in people who are not frequently exposed to BERA, डर बहुत बैठा है, BERA कराना है, सेलेट कराना पड़ेगा बच्चे को, नहीं कराना है हमें, तो ये BERA क्या है, इतना मुश्किल है क्या BERA करना?
It is not that difficult, because it rarely required a sedation. If a child is quite sleepy, then also we can do a BERA test. Hardly 3 electrodes have been applied, 2 on the forehead, 2 on the back of the ears, and then the small impulses or click has been given bilaterally through both the ears, one at a time masking the other ear, and a waveform is recorded. BERA is basically tells you about the retrocochlear conduction of the hearing into the brainstem till the cortex. So different waveforms, 7 waveforms have been recorded, and according to these 7 waveforms, they can grade the hearing sensitivity of the child. If the hearing sensitivity, usually they start with the 60 decibels, and if the 60 decibels is normal, then they gradually come down by 10, 10, 10, 10. If the sensitivity or waveform is adequate at 20 decibels, then hearing is said to be normal. But if the 20 decibel, the waveforms are not adequate, then the child is labeled as having a sensorineural hearing loss, and child will be subjected for more sensorineural hearing loss. and that can help us early intervention for the child.
Thank you, Prasanna sir. Please remember that those babies who have profound hearing, they get just picked up very easily. सबको पता चल जाता है. प्रॉब्लम क्या है, ये माइल्ड हियरिंग इम्पेयरमेंट वाले बेबीज को वैसे बोलते हैं तो नहीं सुनते, थोड़ा जोर से बोलते तो सुन लेते हैं. एंड पेरेंट्स समझते हैं कि इसको बिहेवियर डिसऑर्डर है, डांटने से ही सुनता है, वैसे नहीं सुनता है. एंड दे गो टू स्कूल, दे बिकम स्कूल परफॉर्मर इश्यूज, एंड देयरफॉर नेवर 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 टेल कि ये टेस्ट की जरूरत नहीं है. सेडेशन इज मैक्सिमम, पेडिक्लोर हर चीज के पेडिक्लोर देते रहते हैं. बेबीज मोस्टली प्रॉब्लम ये होता है कि सोते नहीं है टेस्ट करने के लिए. सोना क्यों जरूरी है? अदरवाइज दे कीप मूविंग द इलेक्ट्रोड्स एंड वो टेस्ट पूरा नहीं होता. इतना ही है. बेरा इज नॉट कॉस्टली, इट इज नॉट इन्वेसिव, इट इज अ मस्ट डू इन ए बेबी हु इज हैविंग इंटेंसिव केयर. अगर 5 दिन निक्कू में रहा तो बेरा कराना है. ठीक है ना. उसके बाद जो होगा वो इंटरवेंशन है. हम लोग ऑडियोलॉजिस्ट नहीं है, ईएनटी वाले नहीं है, ज्यादा नहीं मालूम है. पेरेंट्स पूछते हैं, थोड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है कि हियरिंग एड क्या है, कौन सा खरीदना है, कोक्लियर इम्प्लांट.
Monitoring curve rather than a growth chart, and here it is very short, it requires less time, less resources, and what we are looking at is their cross-sectional growth. So longitudinal growth charts are better than the cross-sectional growth charts. So whenever we are looking at growth charts which are intrauterine, that is, we have looked at these intrauterine charts, various names come to our mind, and we have been using Lubchenko's chart, this Brenner, Zhang, Thomas and Kramer. These are all the intrauterine growth charts which are available, and they have looked at different population ethnicity, and their growth charts are available looking at their weight, length and head circumference. So can we use these intrauterine growth charts for our babies? Well, as I said, that a healthy fetus cannot be compared to a preterm who is born early. Why? Because these babies are sick, they have their postnatal weight loss up to about 10 to 15%. They have various problems. As Amit said, most of us want to give TPN. It may not be feasible. We want to give nutrition which is aggressive. It may not be possible. Some of them are IUGR and SGA. These babies may not grow well. And if you plot these babies on the intrauterine growth charts, they are always going to be less than the 10th centile. And then you say these are IUGR. And when you plot these babies on the intrauterine growth charts, and I would say that nearly 80 to 90% of my preterm babies who are going home, I have got extrauterine growth restriction. It's like comparing an apple with an orange. So please don't compare a preterm who is sick with a healthy fetus, because that recommendations of intrauterine growth itself was on a very flimsy ground, where a group of experts came together and they said, well, way back in 97, all babies who are ex utero should grow as if they are in utero. Coming to postnatal growth chart, well, it's developed from the postnatal data, where people have looked at the weight. There is a weight loss up to about 10%. It is influenced by so many sicknesses, medical problems, nutritional issues, and these are various postnatal growth charts which are available. Some of them are by Dances, Wright, and often we use Ehrenkrantz. The latest being Intergrowth 21, which has 3 different charts. Coming to these Ehrenkrantz charts, you can see that there is a dip and then there is a weight gain. So whenever you see a postnatal growth chart with a dip and then there is a rise, these are extrauterine. And there are different charts for, as far as Fenter is concerned, for a male and a female baby. It starts at 22 weeks and ends up at 50 weeks, and finally they go upward from there on to WHO charts. So what are the advantages? Well, it's a very large sample set that Fenton looked, and it's widely being used in most of the NICUs. The problem is that Fenton chart is still a reference chart and it is not a growth standard. And whenever we plot our babies on Fenton chart, we see a high proportion of these babies being categorized as EUGR or extrauterine growth restriction. These are some of the tools which are available, where you can plot the baby's gender, weight, length, head circumference, date of birth, and then you get the centiles. And